So were the bodies moved? Was the crime scene staged? Was it altered? We don't know. But there...
Exactly. We don't know. What's up, guys? True Crime King. Back. All right. So, we're doing a Crime Circus reaction this morning. The title is Bryan Kohberger, Secrets Exposed. Trash DNA. Trash DNA. Like, what? Come on, man. I like Crime Circus, or I used to, but now he's just doing this thing that is just, it's kind of ridiculous, man. Let's go.
There's something awfully astray here that raises a bushy eyebrow. Now let's jump right back into this paperwork where they wanted to convince a judge to allow them to enter Bryan Kohberger's apartment. This is the DNA disclosure. On December 27th, 2022, law enforcement agents/officers in Pennsylvania recovered trash that originated from the Kohberger family residence.
And don't forget, okay, Crime Circus has said before he thought Kohberger was the DoorDash driver. He has said that Kohberger possibly parachuted onto the third floor balcony. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, but you can go back. I've reacted to them all, but he has been wrong on numerous occasions. It kind of seems like he's almost making these titles as clickbait as well. Like this one, Secrets Exposed. What secrets are you gonna expose, Drip Drop? There's a gag order. You don't have any secrets, you know. But and then the thing is, all these people that follow these guys, they just believe anything that comes out of their mouth, and these guys are like presenting this stuff as if it's fact, like the DoorDash, like Bryan Kohberger being the DoorDash driver. Like, then people start actually believing that, right? And then I make a video saying I don't think he was at all, and I state my reasons why, and then people are like, oh no, you're crazy. Crime Circus said he was. You know, like, what? Like, people, you gotta think for yourself, you know. But all right, let's continue. All right.
That trash was sent to the Idaho State Crime Lab for testing. And then it continues on, and it basically confusingly states that Bryan Kohberger's daddy's DNA was on some trash. And somehow they were able to figure out that means Bryan's DNA was on the sheath.
Okay, somehow? What do you mean somehow? If they have his dad's DNA, it's very easy to, do a genealogy thing, and then once they have Kohbergers, boom. I mean, or they can narrow it down, the DNA that was on the sheath, if someone is related to Kohberger's daddy, as he says, like Bryan Kohberger, they found out that the DNA could have only came from the daddy or Bryan Kohberger himself. Duh. And it wasn't the daddy, you know. So what do you? Yeah, he says somehow, but yeah, they send it to a expert in forensics, right? And then he or she narrows it down. That's how they somehow get the DNA, right? They narrowed it down to two people, his daddy or Kohberger.
Below that, it says, this information is being provided to the court pursuant to my duty and obligation to be fully candid with the court. I do not believe this information is exculpatory for the suspect. However, if the court believes it is exculpatory, then the court should consider the supplemental disclosure in its evaluation of the existence of probable cause or lack of. Ladies and gentlemen, what are they even talking about here? Let's continue. But I am specifically asking the court to not consider this supplemental disclosure as evidence supporting the existence of probable cause. The reason for this request is that if the DNA test results are held inadmissible at some point, such a ruling would not impact the finding of probable cause for this warrant, so long as this court is satisfied as to probable cause regardless of the DNA test result. Boom.
Boom. There's no boom there, right? They're just covering their butt just in case the DNA gets thrown out, and they're just using a bunch of legal jargon.
So they allegedly have Bryan Kohberger's DNA.
No, they don't allegedly. They have it. They have Bryan Kohberger's DNA. Now they 100% do from this cheek swab. And at the time, he made this video 12 days ago. So he knew that they already had his Bryan Kohberger's own DNA when he made this video. That's what I don't understand, why he even is saying this, right? This trash thing doesn't mean anything anymore, right? It doesn't mean anything anymore. They have the cheek swab. Once Bryan Kohberger was extradited back to Idaho, the prison system, okay? They have they have Bryan Kohberger's DNA. So this whole trash thing, again, it doesn't mean anything anymore.
On a sheath that was possibly found underneath Madison Mogan.
It was found underneath Madison Mogan. Yeah, so I don't know why you're downplaying that. That is a boom. That's the big boom, right?
Dear Judge, we'd really like to get into Bryan Kohberger's apartment. We even found a sheath with his DNA underneath one of the victims. But just in case anything comes up in the future regarding this DNA, we don't even want you to consider it. We just want you to let us inside of his apartment, regardless of his DNA being at the scene, regardless of a sheath being underneath one of the victims. Does anyone else out there think that's a little suspicious?
No. They're attorneys. They have to do this stuff. They wouldn't be doing their job if they wouldn't be covering their butt just in case of something happening. You know, they don't know what games the defense is going to be playing, right? The defense is doing the same thing. Like, why isn't anybody talking about the games that the defense is trying to play? Which I'm going to. Once I have more time to make some videos. So this week I'm going to make some videos doing that on the other side.
It seems to me like they know something is very suspicious about this sheath with his DNA on it. They're being very secretive about this genealogy testing. They're being awful suspicious.
Secretive? What are they supposed to say? You know, that there's a gag order. They can't say anything. Of course they're being secretive, Drip Drop.
On how they've located this DNA on the sheath, how they matched it to the trash in Pennsylvania, and how they matched it to Bryan Kohberger's father, etc. So on and so forth. I think you get the idea. If you've got that kind of smoking gun evidence, where you've got a knife sheath with the suspect's DNA on it, you don't just ask the court to not even consider it in this application to get inside of his house.
They said just in case. They have to do that. I mean, what?
Just in case something pops up down the road, of course.
Of course. The defense is doing the same exact thing. They have to too. That's their jobs, just in case. Right?
Boom.
Boom. The other way.
That is super sus. Yeah.
See, and he's pushing this, it's so suspicious. That's so, wow. That's a big boom. secrets exposed. Come on. This is nothing. It's just typical legal stuff. In any trial, any murder trial, you're gonna see the exact same documents, right? Just in case the DNA gets thrown out for some reason, right? Just in case. They all do this. All the attorneys in every murder trial.
Also, while we're on this topic, let's very briefly discuss the actual arrest affidavit in Pennsylvania. They talked about quite a few little irrelevant details such as Farm Road, as discussed in my previous video, and other miscellaneous details that didn't really seem to have much to do with anything, like the DoorDash driver. If the DoorDash...
Here we go. Hopefully he still doesn't think Kohberger's the DoorDash
driver isn't involved, then why are they even mentioning the DoorDash driver in an arrest affidavit for Bryan Kohberger?
Oh, so now he doesn't think Bryan Kohberger was the DoorDash driver at all.
What they certainly didn't mention was any genealogy testing, anything being mailed to a DNA laboratory in Texas, but they made sure to mention a random DoorDash driver who allegedly had nothing to do with this crime.
Now, the DoorDash driver has nothing to do with the crime. Go back and watch my video on when Crime Circus was saying that Kohberger was the DoorDash driver and all that, and then watch this. It's like a total 180.
Also, something that I'm going to very briefly mention right now, but do an even deeper dive in the future in a different video. The police chief just happened to allegedly not be in town on the morning of this crime. Also, according to this article, the lead detective didn't even enter the crime scene until 4 hours after the bodies were found.
What, was the police chief supposed to know that that a murder was going to occur? The police chief isn't allowed to go on vacation or wherever he was? What? What do you mean by that, Trip Drop? And the lead detective didn't enter the house 4 hours later. Maybe he was waiting to do it the right way, right? Maybe they were waiting for whatever the police do because they knew this was going to be big, right? Maybe they were just waiting for some paperwork or the right forensic people to get there or the right stuff to put stuff on their boots or whatever so they don't cause any more DNA to contaminate the scene, right? Maybe they were just doing it the right way, right? You wouldn't just want to go running in there, right?
From what I've seen researching true crime, the first 48 hours...
We saw in the John Benet Ramsey case, remember that? The cops just let everybody walk up and anywhere through the house, and it completely destroyed all the evidence, and they still haven't caught anybody. I know who I think did it, but I'll do another video on that someday.
Is the most important in solving these type of crimes. So where was the lead detective for the first 4 hours? Wouldn't you think that the lead detective would be there in the first 4 minutes? There had already been a bunch of college kids hanging around the crime scene. Who was in the house? And why were they in the house? Moving on. Now let's...
Yeah, moving on. Because it's a non-issue. The lead detective, I'm sure there was forensic people there doing their job. Maybe, just like I said, he was getting the right paperwork or doing all whatever police stuff he had to do, right? Or maybe he was just far away. Who knows, right? What does that even have to do with anything? Like, what are you trying to say there? I just don't understand why people are just trying to make a big deal out of nothing, right? There's nothing to talk about here.
Circle back to the DNA in the sheath. We're going to discuss it a little further because it's super important. It's basically the key to this case. You say there's micro nanoparticles of DNA on the button? Last time I checked...
Oh my God.
To touch DNA leaves a lot of DNA cells.
Here we go with this touch DNA crap. Drip drop. See, this is what's pissing me off.
A lot more than some nanoparticles. Super important. Let's check out the state's response to the defense request.
Guys, do your research on what touch DNA is. Okay? I'm not even going to go over it anymore. It's Bryan Kohberger's DNA on the sheath. They have his cheek swab. It's a 5.37 octillion% chance that the DNA on the knife sheath is only Bryan Kohberger's. You do the math.
Requesting evidence against their client. In regard to the defense's request for genetic genealogy testing and search, the state objects and intends to separately file a motion in the MIME and motion for protective order under ICR 16. As will be more fully detailed in said motion, the state believes that the defense's requested discovery is outside the scope of ICR 16, in that it does not intend to negate the guilt of the accused as to the offense charged or
See, the defense is doing their job. They're just they're trying to get the DNA thrown out because they know Kohberger is going to be convicted if this DNA goes in front of the jurors. I mean, boom.
And to reduce punishment for the offensive as contemplated by ICR 16, it is not relevant. What do they mean it's not relevant? Isn't this the key piece of information they're trying to prosecute Bryan Kohberger with? The one they've told the media all about? Let's continue. It is not relevant. It is not material to the preparation of the defense. Actually, it's super important to the defense because that's exactly why they arrested Bryan Kohberger and were digging through his trash to allegedly get his father's DNA. The whole case revolves around this genetic genealogy testing.
Yeah, it does.
It is not intended for use by the state as evidence at trial, and none of the documentation being sought belongs to the defendant as contemplated.
They're talking about the genealogy search. The state, they don't need to talk about that anymore. Just like I said, because they have his cheek swab. They don't need to talk about the genealogy search at trial anymore. They don't, that's what they're saying. I don't think Drip Drop understands that. They don't need to. They have his direct cheek swab. The genealogy means nothing now. Like I said earlier in this video, before this even came up.
Contemplated by ICR 16. Genetic genealogy research does not constitute reports of examination or test under ICR 16, and any genetic genealogy research is exempt from the disclosure under ICR 16. Secrets? Oh, how this case is filled with secrets.
Secrets. Again, there's a gag order, guys. This is just ridiculous. We're at the 20-minute mark, but, you know, there's a gag order. Of course there's going to be secrets until trial. I'm not going to keep going on about that. Here's just another guy trying to push this narrative for some reason, until trial, so they have something to talk about. And in a couple weeks, he'll say something completely different and move on like he has been. Well, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think. And until next time, True Crime King, out.